this is bad, and this may not be able to be saved, but we're going to roll with it anyway.
Literally, roll with it.
Hello there, hi! My name is Amber Sands and welcome to my kitchen. I am a drag queen and performer with a particular interest in Victorian social history. So welcome to the first episode in this little or long series. We are going to be cooking recipes from Mrs. Beeton's Cookery and Household Management. First off, I want to introduce my wife, my newly wedded wife, the Chesapeake Kitchen.
Oh, hello.
I love your work.
My heart belongs to Daddy.
Also known as the Chesapeake Kitchen, she is so close to 50,000 followers on TikTok. How many times have you gone viral now?
3 or 4 times or something like that.
3 or 4 times with just, a couple million. Usually what happens in this kitchen is pig's feet and tongue and lungs and heart. That is not happening here.
We don't know. I don't know what recipes are in the book.
If organs, offal, Hannibal, Will Graham, if any of that floats your boat the way it absolutely sinks mine, head over to her TikTok. It will be linked down in the description. Give her a lovely follow. Watch a couple of her videos.
Yes, please, thank you.
So, Chessie. I should call you Chessie!
No, because it means toilet in Italian.
So Toilet is here. Because she's more of a chef than I am. Allow me to tell you guys and to tell you a little bit of the history behind Miss Beeton.
Okay.
This copy is genuine Victorian. I believe it's from 1891. It's got all the beautiful trappings of an antique book.
Pork pies, Scotch eggs. Oh, Scotch eggs.
While this copy is authentic, the author behind it is largely believed to be a fraud. Mrs. Beeton herself was absolutely real, born Isabella Mary Mason in London in 1836, where she lived until she passed away aged 28. She met and married Samuel Beeton, a popular publisher, and began writing for one of his publications, the English Woman's Domestic Magazine. Isabella wrote the cookery column, but mostly she stole and plagiarised recipes which were sent in by her readers, and many of those appear in this book. After Mrs. Beeton's death, her husband Sam found that the money was drying up. So much for the ideals of the man being the breadwinner in a Victorian household. He sold the rights to Mrs. Beeton's published works to his rivals, who then continued to publish and sell the works, all the while trying to keep the fantasy alive that Mrs. Beeton was still alive and still writing the recipes. But it cannot be doubted that Mrs. Beeton helped shape and mould the role of housewives and maidservants in the Victorian era. Nowadays we look back on this book as a novelty of its time, and it's been trashed repeatedly for content theft. A Victorian sniper wolf, if you will. But I'm not going to let any of that stop me from cooking some of these recipes, because the recipes stolen or not are still authentic Victorian recipes, and I'm really, really excited to get into it. There's a certain amount of knowledge that you're expected to already have before you start these recipes. We're going to see how much we stumble. The most glaring question: why and why drag? And to that I say,
why not?
Let's go! Alright. So our first recipe today is fittingly amber pudding. The first thing that we need to do is make some puff pastry. And pastry is such a foundational element to so many different recipes that Mrs. Beeton, very unhelpfully, just assumed that this stupid drag queen would already know how to make puff pastry when this stupid drag queen doesn't.
God, Karen, you are so stupid.
So the format is going to be a bit of to camera here. I'm going to try and not look here too much, but at you. I see you. And we've got a lovely top-down situation, which I'm going to switch to right now.
This cad! This wassac!
Alright, let's get to it. Let's make some pastry. Bowl demon! First off, we've got 450 grams of flour, pinch of salt, chuck that in there, and get sifty.
I have a beef with this type of measurement. Cups and pounds and ounces. What measurement are these? They don't make any sense. What the fuck is an ounce?
You know, Gingangooly gotcha.
It most certainly did not.
And next we're going to rub in 56 grams of butter, which is 2 ounces. And rubbing in literally just means getting down and dirty. Down and dirty with your hands.
I have a beef with Amber.
You're joking. Not another one?
What is this, son? What is this, son?
Margarine. Margarine. Margarine.
Next we have to add 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. I'm not going to measure it, I'm just going to do that. Okay, and then what else? 1/3 of a pint of cold water. Okay, so we're going to mix this all together. Then we're going to get our butter and roll it out into a nice rectangle that then we can put on the pastry somehow and fold it all together. It will all begin to make sense, we hope. Smell that, it smells like wallpaper paste. But then my brain also wanted to tell me, it smells like flour.
I enjoy cooking bacon and stop working with flour.
You sure there was 1/3 of a pint that you put in, and not an entire pint?
Yeah, because it's half a pint, so then I did there.
That's basic math.
So stupid.
What I have done is when the recipe said 1/3 of a pint, I saw half a pint and was like, well, that's 1/2. And I know that 1/3 is like just a little bit less than a half, so I went above.
Stupid.
So what I've added is
3/4 of a pint.
2/3 or 3/4. Yeah.
You are made of stupid.
Okay, facciamo. Let's do some math for a second. Proper math, not like Amber math. Really great girl math. Drag queen math. That's why it was so bad. And now we have this like Augustus Gloop. You put 3 times what you should have of water.
Yeah, so we need
3 times all the other ingredients. So we need 800 grams of flour. We're gonna have so much puff pastry after this. But that means that we need like 1.5 kilos of butter.
Yeah, I think it's better just to start again.
We don't have enough butter anyway.
Let's just fill it up with flour.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
We're not even gonna sift it. Okay, guys. Okay, we're just gonna see what happens. You know what? In the Victorian times, when a housewife did this, she wouldn't have been able to just pop off to Tesco and start again. She's got to make do. And what do drag queens do? We make do.
It's a bit wet, isn't it? Yeah, that's kinda what happens.
This is why she's here.
Yeah, no, because you just go. Yeah, I said 1/3 of a cup. Is it? Yeah. So we need to get the 400 grams of butter, or like whatever is like 1 pound minus 2 ounces. Create a block with it, like a square. And we make the dough of the same shape, basically.
I'm gonna leave this now and put it to one side. We just added loads more flour, just to make it less wet.
We don't know the quantities. Happily, more flour.
We've made a mistake. We tried to polyfiller the hole. May or may not leak. We'll see what happens.
Don't do it like we made a mistake. Embrace your own. Don't know where I was going with that.
Oh, try me, bitch.
Now what we have to do is mash the butter and the margarine together and roll it out. We're going to have to use tin foil, so if it's a bit icky in the audio, terribly sorry about that. Just turn your headphones down. Okay, so margarine and all the rest of the butter.
No, just that. That's all that you put here.
What? I thought we were using the butter.
That's not enough, and you cannot mix them. It's
Why
better
not?
Because you cannot mix them.
Yeah, but I can't roll that out. It's a spread. It will just go completely flat.
Yeah, but you cannot mix the two
Why?
things because they don't react good with one another.
Why?
I'm just going to hope that the butter and the margarine mix. I've been reliably told that they probably won't, but I'm going to ignore that advice.
You have two options. You can basically just work on the butter and hope that the margarine will just follow the lead.
It's not becoming a cake. She said cake! Okay, so this is rather massive.
That's what she said.
Roll it.
So we're just rolling this out so that it's twice as wide. So we'll roll it out this way and this way and rather long. So it's going to get quite thin, I imagine. Okay, I think that's fine. So now we just have to wait for the butter to come out of the freezer while it hardens up. And then we can put the butter in the middle and do some stuff. We are a little bit confused.
So stupid.
By this 1891 recipe as two modern women. The recipe tells us to put a strip of the pastry on the bottom of the dish and then to add all the ingredients. I'm going to make an executive decision. We've got our pie dish. Once we've rolled out the pastry, added all the butter, rolled it out, done all the folding, we'll halve it because we've got far too much. Roll it out, line the bottom of this, half bake it. While that is half baking, we will proceed with the ingredients of the amber pudding, which will then go on top, and then we'll bake it for a further 15 minutes.
Yeah, sounds good.
That's the plan.
Can I say what's my doubt? I find the instruction very confusing. Grease the bottom of a pie dish, and I think we all agree what that means. Like, you just grease the bottom of a pie dish. Good.
Love your work.
Line it halfway down with a strip of paste. The way I see it, if you say that, is that I'm getting this. I've greased it, and then I'm getting like a thin strip of paste that I'm just putting on the sides. But it doesn't make any sense. But like, it doesn't have a bottom. The way it's described, it wouldn't make any sense to just have like a mega ring of half-cooked pastry, right?
We just have to tweak the recipe a little bit. Something has been lost in the
Period.
140 years since this has been published.
Few moments later.
We have actually found a couple of pages of puff pastry recipes, and I didn't even research properly.
Justice is a fickle wench.
The next bit is very complicated.
I'm trying my hardest, I don't know.
I know I have a lot of wig, but there's a lot of empty space underneath it.
I'm unprepared, I don't know the menu, I don't know the times.
This is the point that I don't understand. So, I am going to lovingly hand this bit over to Carrie.
Oh, hello.
We only need half this amount. We might have half for our dinner.
It's good.
What was that doubt?
Well, because if you think about
Did
it,
you hear that doubt? It was good.
because if
me,
you think
I made
about
this.
it, the percentage of ingredients is kind of not as per recipe. So like,
Yeah, but it's as per my recipe, and are you telling me that I'm wrong?
yeah, because I love you, and I want you to grow into a better chef.
Let me just read you the excerct from this recipe book of what we have to do next. I'm just going to read it verbatim and see if you can follow along, because I sure as heck can't. Roll out into a long strip 3 times the original length but the original width. Got it. Keeping the corners square and the sides straight to ensure an even thickness when the pastry is folded. Okay. Do not let the butter break through the dough. Fold the bottom third up and the top third down. Press the edges together with a rolling pin and half turn the pastry so that the folded edges are on the left and right. Roll and fold again and let it slide in a cool place for 15 minutes. Repeat this process until the pastry has been rolled out 6 times. Rolling should be done as evenly as possible and the pastry gets long, narrow. Fold the bottom third up and the top third down. Press the edges together with a rolling pin and half turn the pastry so that the folded edges are on the left and right. Roll and fold again and let it slide in a cool place for 15 minutes. Repeat the process until the pastry has been rolled out 6 times. Rolling should be done as evenly as possible and the pastry gets a long, narrow shape. Repeat this process until the pastry has been rolled out 6 times. So far, all we've done is made puff pastry and had arguments. Who knew that puff pastry would be the thing to test our very new marriage? With her Hannibal's TikToks that she does, everything that she does is so exacting. And if anything goes wrong, she won't post it.
No, I just edit smartly so you'll never see that there was an issue.
Whereas for me, I know that something's going to go wrong, and usually that would stress me out. But knowing that full well that it is going to go wrong from the start, I just want to see where it goes, whereas you immediately get into this mindset of, no, this is serious, we have to fix this. And I'm like,
Shut up.
So I'm hoping that these gaping wounds in this puff pastry helps you to just roll with it sometimes. Things have gone wrong. We don't need to stress about it.
This is bad.
This is bad. And this may not be able to be saved, but we're going to roll with it anyway.
Literally. Roll with it. It's not like it's going good.
I love your work.
While the pastry is in the freezer, what we're going to do is start stewing the apples. So as you saw, it's literally just apples with the juice and zest of a lemon. And then let's start stewing. Why don't you explain your TikTok?
Before we begin, you must all be warned. Nothing here is vegetarian.
I've started almost a year ago. It's almost a year ago. It was the 12th of December, my first recipe. I make recipes.
Once I make my move.
Oh no! What is it? Going to sacrifice himself?
Shut up. They are inspired by, mostly from Hannibal. That's why Chesapeake Kitchen, because Hannibal Lecter's serial killer's name is Chesapeake Ripper. So that's why, because he's gonna, the man is gonna cook somewhere.
Because he lives in a place called Chesapeake.
No, he doesn't. He lives in fucking Baltimore.
So why is it, where does Chesapeake come from?
I have no clue. They just have what they call him. Blame Richard Harris or whatever his name is.
Richard Harris?
A lot. Earwax.
Thomas Harris. There we go. Thomas Harris. But yeah, so the recipe come from the TV show. Most of the recipes are coming from the official cookbook. Some recipes from my channel are just like my own recipes based on like, okay, I think, you know, let's make something with heart. Like, what can we do with heart? So what can we make with tongue?
So what's your favourite thing that you've ever cooked?
I still really love the Ravenstag stew, venison stew. That was really nice. That was one of the first recipes I've done for the page. I really enjoyed making the heart Wellington. It's like I posted it maybe a month ago, and I feel like there was a craze of beef Wellington going on TikTok at the moment, so it did really well. But I just had like, oh my god, you know what would be really funny? Make a beef Wellington by using lamb heart.
Motive!
These are stewing away now. Everything's getting quite steamy. It smells amazing, but it's because it's apples, sugar and lemon. While those are stewing, let's refer to our lovely original. Past the apple marmalade, so this mixture, once it stews down, it will obviously turn into a sweet pulp. So we need to pass that through a sieve because I got some bits of lemon in there, but you want to pass it through a sieve just so it's nice and creamy anyway. Add to it the yolks of 3 eggs, and after mixing thoroughly, turn into the dish and bake for 15 minutes. Oh, put the mixture on top of the baked pudding, decorate with cherries, and place it in a moderate oven to bring to a bright golden colour. Oh, that's so fun!
So it's like a meringue.
Yeah! Oh, okay. So, what I've just learned is that this dish was not what I thought it was at all because I didn't read the whole recipe. I just saw amber pudding and apples and went, yep! So we've got our apple puree simmering away here. I just want to try some. It's still got a little ways to go. It's not quite marmalade consistency, but you can see it's very much like the applesauce consistency that you might have with your roast dinner.
It's good.
That's magic. So we're gonna sieve our pureed apples now, so it will come through as a marmalade as it's described in the book. Let me just put the mic in the mixing so you can really hear what that sounds like. See how there's quite a lot on the bottom. It's fine. I am very disappointed that you didn't pick it up Snow White style and go.
Well, I did it. I thought about it. And now we cook it. I am not sure how long.
The 60s book says that we should put it in for 15 minutes into a very hot oven. Now the recipe does say that you don't want to open the door before those 15 minutes are up because it will cause the pastry to collapse. So we're going to put it in, shut our eyes and just ignore it. In she goes.
Where's the door gone?
We need now 3 eggs and we need to separate the yolks from the whites. Pastry has risen enough, so we're going to get it out of the oven. Okay, look at that.
Beige.
I mean, it's fine. I'm sure it's gonna look like something edible at the end.
Okay, so yeah, I did it wrong. But if I show you here, look at these little, there's some puff.
Tosspot.
There's some puff action. Look at that. You see
Some
this?
layering.
Look at that. Yeah. I think that's a bit of alright, that is. We're keeping the oven on and we're just going to move our lovely puff pastry to the side using our bare hands. To our apple mixture, we are going to add the yolks of 3 eggs. So we're going to mix in the yolks and hope that they don't cook, because this was still just a little bit warm. How fun is this? How fun is this? I'm really enjoying this. I've had a passion for the Victorians for a really, really long time. I remember the first book that I bought on Victorian London was, I believe it was called London Under by Catherine Arnold, and it was about how so many of the tube lines go through plague pits and what exactly is underneath London, the modern city, from Romans through to Victorian times, and it completely fascinated me. So I just have like this weird affinity for loving the stories of regular working class people in London, how they lived their everyday lives, how they spoke, what they ate, how they got to work, what they did for work, what were their bosses like, just their everyday mundane lives. It endlessly fascinates me, and to be able to have this book from the 1890s that was originally written in the 1840s, I want to say, something like that, the mid 1800s, to be able to cook the authentic recipes. And although sure, we're not really doing them justice, I don't know what I'm doing, but you know, maybe there was a housewife back then who also didn't know what she was doing and she also made this abomination. Are we really that different? No. I love that I get to do this, and I love that I get to do it with my wife, who's like here helping and has dealt with like my tantrums up till now. And I'm just looking at this lovely applesauce. Right. Anyway, okay, sentimentality over. My onion rings are ready. We have turned the oven right the way down to 150 because it needs to be in a moderate temperature. I figure 150 is moderate. And this needs to go in the oven for 15 minutes. The next step is we have our egg whites, and essentially what we're going to do is whip them up until they're to that meringue, like the liquid meringue kind of texture, but obviously not meringue because there's no cream of tartar in here. I know some stuff. We just need to keep adding caster sugar until it can't take any caster sugar anymore. Mrs. Beeton says beat the whites of the eggs stiff, adding as much caster sugar as they will take. I'm not quite sure what that means. I mean, I do know what it means, I just don't know what it's going to look like. So we have been diligently whisking and then got some stiff peaks that we added caster sugar to, and now we're just gonna ladle it on the top like meringue, and then it goes back into the oven until it's just slightly browned on top, and then we'll be done. Put the mixture upon the top of the baked pudding, decorate with cherries, and place it in a moderate oven to bring to a bright golden colour. Oh, so this says time half an hour to bake the pudding, and it was in there for 15 minutes.
You fucked up.
Wouldn't be the first time.
That's because I didn't read this recipe even once before we started baking.
And you blame me when I'm doing my own recipes and I'm like, nah, I forgot one ingredient. And you're like, you haven't read the recipe. I was like, well, the lady didn't put it in the list of ingredients on top, so whose fault is that?
Just sounds like excuses to me.
Who's hungry?
You did great.
Glacé cherries.
What's your hands? What's that?
Because they're sticky.
Oh, come on.
They are whole. I could have bought half ones, but I didn't want to. This looks glorious. Look at this. I am so made up that we made a genuine Victorian dessert. Like, who else gets to say that they made a genuine... I mean, sure, like, in the book it has apple charlotte. That's a thing. That's legitimately a thing, but we made...
I just went for it.
amber pudding.
Okay, back in the oven.
Just for enough for this to brown off. Here we are at our beautiful semi-Victorian table with, let me add, genuine Victorian cookery book with Victorian china celebrating Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee in 1887, which was 1 year before the Jack the Ripper murders. Did you know that? Look at this. This is gigantic. This is huge.
That's what she said.
And I am the only one who is allowed to touch these in our house. When I tell you I'm obsessed with the Victorians, I paid an obscene amount of money for these in a charity shop quite some years ago when I really didn't have the money, but I had to have these. So it's a bit weird, isn't it? Do you think it's a bit weird for a drag queen to be so obsessed with history?
You're not supposed to get it, you Philistine, as a kid.
History.
Which I'm sure there's plenty of drag queens with like intense obsessions over certain subjects.
Yeah, that's true. Mine's the Victorian. So here is our amazing dessert that we've made straight out of the pages of Mrs. Beeton. This is the amber pudding.
I don't know if this was supposed to brown more, but it's definitely cooked.
I can't wait to tuck in. What's kind of strange about this dessert, if you think about it, is that it's puff pastry on the bottom, then you've got the apple filling and then meringue on the top. It's kind of a bit topsy-turvy, don't you think?
Usually, I don't know what's there.
Topsy-turvy. It means upside down.
Oh, okay.
The wrong way up.
Yeah, and it sounds like a lemon meringue pie, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it's apples.
Oh. Oh, it feels very soft. Oh, the meringue is moving quite a bit. Oh, that's gonna fall off. Okay. Oh. Okay, I don't know if that camera can catch the steam. No. There's a lot of steam coming out of it. I think it's very, very hot. I have learnt a lot through the process of cooking this.
Okay.
Mostly that you really should read recipes at least once before you cook. Because we were wondering how long to cook everything for. It told you it was just at the end of the recipe, which I never got to. Oh gosh, it's all falling apart. Oh gosh. The pastry bottom, I think, has perhaps caught in the oven and is maybe a bit overcooked. It's very tough. It could be that it was too thick. I don't know how else to... Okay, there we go. Do you know what? Let's just have one serving and we're going to try and reconstruct it on your plate.
Okay. Can I give it a go and have a slice?
Shall I carve?
I think you already have.
This is the trouble that I had. And you called me brutal.
Yeah.
There you go. There's your close-up. It doesn't look great. It doesn't look great.
So, all together and then single parts?
Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet. Oh, dude, that's sweet.
That is good though.
Yeah. I think
That is incredibly sweet.
the puff pastry was a mistake.
How so? Miss Chef.
It's way too thick. And I couldn't roll it thinner because it was falling apart. Probably the taste of the puff pastry is not correct, but there's so much on top of it that kind of covers it.
Where I say that I should have read the recipe, right at the very end, it says time taken, something like that, and then half an hour pudding. I personally think that after you've cooked the puff pastry and you've done it properly from the start, you're then supposed to cook the pudding part of it, the apple, on top for half an hour, which would make it a lot more solid than it currently is, because we cooked this for 15 minutes. So I think if we had left the pudding in there for another 15 minutes, it would have got that much harder, because you tapped the top. You tapped the top of it and it was firm. I think it just needed longer in the oven, and I really messed up. I really messed up with that puff pastry right at the very start. We were doomed to fail. But this is good. I think people think of Victorian times and Victorians in general as very bleak and miserable, but this is a really sweet pudding that I think any child would love.
The way I perceive Victorians is that they abused sugar wildly, so this way makes much sense. To me, the best part is the apples. I'd have that. I think if I had to redo this, I would buy the puff pastry because it's too much effort to make and it's too hard to make.
The puff pastry is definitely
raw. I would make the apple thing on top. I would skip the meringue. I'm not a fan of meringue in general. The meringue doesn't add anything.
Oh, with the cherries, I think my teeth are retreating back into their gums. Really the only thing I'd change is putting rhubarb in with the apple, or maybe some blackberries, and having a crumble base at the bottom, because I think a crumble base just lends itself more to this kind of thing. Well, there you go.
Raw in all.
Yeah, I'm kind of skating around the raw bits. Final verdict? Oh.
I need to brush my teeth. So much sugar.
I haven't got any left. They've all gone.
Sorry.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And if you've made it all the way through this video, we love you, we see you, we appreciate you. Thank you. This has been Cooking Mrs. Beeton with Amber Sands and
Chesapeake Kitchen
/
Carrie.
I'll leave some links in the description to where you can find us on the socials, especially Miss Carrie Vaggio and her Chesapeake Kitchen. Definitely go follow for things that are not as sweet as this. Definitely not a glacé cherry in sight.
No.
More than likely eyeballs. So, you know, like I said, if that's your bag, follow her. And join us next time for another recipe from Mrs. Beeton. It might be completely normal, it might be completely wild, it might be something completely disgusting. I think I'm gonna let you take the lead for the next one.
Nice. We're gonna read the recipe from start to finish before doing it.
I don't know about that. See you next time.